When things don't make sense, we often feel untethered, confused, and overwhelmed. But what if leaning into that discomfort is where the magic lies? When life feels confusing and doesn't make sense, it's natural to want to shield ourselves. We put up walls, retreat from uncertainty, and armor ourselves against the unknown. It feels safer that way. Vulnerability in these moments seems like the last thing we'd want to embrace. Why would anyone willingly lean into discomfort, expose their fears, or admit they don't have it all together? We often equate vulnerability with weakness, as if being open about our struggles somehow diminishes our strength. But the truth is the opposite. Vulnerability is not weakness, it's the purest form of courage. Choosing to be vulnerable means stepping into uncertainty with your whole heart. It means showing up even when you can't predict the outcome and saying, I'm here. I'm willing to face this. That takes immense strength. It's easy to close ourselves off to numb the pain or to pretend that everything is fine. But those approaches only keep us stuck. Vulnerability is the bridge that allows us to move forward, even when we're scared. When you allow yourself to be vulnerable, you're giving yourself permission to feel and to be seen. That's a profoundly courageous act because it exposes you to potential judgment, rejection, or failure. But it also opens the door to connection, growth, and transformation. Vulnerability is where innovation and creativity thrive. It's where relationships deepen, and it's where you find the courage to try again after a setback. Without it, we remain in a protective bubble, safe but stagnant. Think about the moments in your life that required true bravery. Maybe it was asking for help when you felt like you should be able to handle things on your own. Maybe it was having an honest conversation that you had been avoiding for fear of conflict. Or maybe it was taking a leap of faith, not knowing if you'd succeed. In every one of those moments, vulnerability was at the core of your courage. It's not the absence of fear that makes you brave. It's the willingness to act despite the fear. But embracing vulnerability doesn't mean recklessness or oversharing. It's about choosing carefully where to place your trust and who deserves to hear your story. Being vulnerable isn't about spilling every detail of your struggles to anyone who will listen. It's about letting the right people in and being authentic in a way that honors your boundaries. It's the delicate balance of staying open while protecting your peace. In moments of confusion, when nothing seems to make sense, vulnerability can be the key to moving through the chaos. It allows us to say, I don't have all the answers, but I'm willing to explore the questions. That openness creates space for clarity to emerge. It's not about having everything figured out. It's about being present and honest with where you are right now. That honesty takes courage because it means admitting that you're in the middle of the messy, uncertain process of figuring things out. What makes vulnerability so powerful is its capacity to connect us. When you're vulnerable, you invite others to do the same. You create an environment where it's safe to be authentic, and that safety fosters deeper, more meaningful relationships. It reminds us that we're not alone in our struggles and that, together, we can navigate the challenges of life. Vulnerability may feel risky, but it's a risk worth taking. It's not a weakness to admit that you're struggling or that you don't have all the answers. It's a profound act of strength to say, I'm human. I'm learning, I'm growing. In those moments, we give ourselves permission to be imperfect, and in doing so, we unlock our greatest potential. So the next time life doesn't make sense, resist the urge to armor up. Instead, lean into vulnerability. It won't make the uncertainty disappear, but it will give you the courage to face it head on. And in that act of courage, you'll discover just how strong you truly are. When life feels confusing, one of the most paralyzing beliefs is that we need to have everything figured out before we can take the next step. It's a common trap believing that clarity must come first, that we need all the answers before making a decision, or that we can't move forward without being absolutely certain of the outcome. But clarity isn't always a starting point. It's often the result of action. The truth is, you don't need to know everything to move forward. In fact, waiting for perfect understanding can keep you stuck in place far longer than the uncertainty ever would. Life is inherently messy, and many of the greatest lessons we learn come not from planning, but from doing. It's tempting to think that if we just gather more information or think things through a bit longer, we'll find the magic formula that makes everything clear. But in most cases, overthinking leads to analysis paralysis. The more you deliberate, the harder it becomes to act. What's often missing in these moments is not knowledge, but courage, the courage to take a step forward, even when you're unsure of where it will lead. Taking action without having all the answers isn't reckless, it's human. Every significant milestone or breakthrough in life begins with a single, often uncertain step. Think about the moments when you've made a leap, whether it was starting a new job, moving to a different place, or even beginning a relationship. Rarely did you have complete clarity at the outset. More often than not, you learned as you went. The act of moving forward brought with it new insights, experiences, and perspectives that wouldn't have been possible if you had stayed frozen in place. One of the reasons we hesitate to act without full clarity is fear of making the wrong choice, or fear of being judged. But what if we reframed failure as a natural part of growth? Missteps and setbacks aren't the end of the story, they're chapters in the process. Each wrong turn teaches us something invaluable, bringing us closer to what does work. Failure isn't a sign that you're incapable, it's evidence that you're trying, learning, and adapting. When we insist on knowing everything before we act, we're often trying to shield ourselves from discomfort. But the discomfort of uncertainty is not something to avoid, it's something to embrace. It's in these moments of not knowing that we stretch ourselves, test our limits, and discover what we're truly capable of. Growth doesn't happen in comfort zones, it happens when we step into the unknown with an open heart and a willingness to learn. Moreover, clarity often emerges in motion. Imagine you're driving at night with only your headlights to guide you. You can only see a few feet ahead, but as you move forward, the road unfolds. Life works much the same way. Taking one small step can illuminate the next, and then the next, until eventually you find yourself on a path that feels right, even if it wasn't the one you initially envisioned. It's also important to remember that it's okay to course correct. Moving forward doesn't mean you're locked into one direction forever. Life is fluid, and so are your choices. If you discover that a particular path isn't serving you, you have the power to pivot. The willingness to adjust as you go is a strength, not a weakness. It's a testament to your resilience and adaptability. Another key aspect of moving forward without all the answers is trusting yourself. Trust that you have the inner resources to navigate whatever comes your way. Trust that even if things don't go as planned, you'll find a way to handle it. This kind of self-trust is built not through endless preparation, but through experience, by taking risks, learning from the outcomes, and continuing to move forward. Finally, remember that life is rarely about reaching a final destination. It's about the journey, the process of becoming, and the lessons we gather along the way. If you wait for perfect clarity, you risk missing out on the beauty of the unfolding. So give yourself permission to move forward, even when you don't have all the answers. Trust that the path will reveal itself as you take each step. In the end, it's not about knowing everything, it's about being willing to begin. Emotions are an integral part of being human, yet they can feel overwhelming and confusing, especially when life doesn't make sense. They can be messy, unpredictable, and at times downright inconvenient. Many of us are taught to suppress, control, or ignore our emotions, believing they make us weak or irrational. But emotions are not the enemy, they are powerful guides. They carry important messages, offering insight into our needs, boundaries, and values. While they may be messy, they are also essential for growth, healing, and connection. When emotions arise, our first instinct is often to push them away. We numb discomfort with distractions, deny our feelings because they seem too heavy, or try to power through as if emotions are an obstacle to productivity. However, avoiding emotions doesn't make them disappear, it only buries them. Over time, suppressed emotions can manifest in physical symptoms like stress, fatigue, or illness, or they may resurface in unproductive ways, such as sudden anger or withdrawal. Ignoring emotions doesn't remove their impact, it amplifies it. The messiness of emotions lies in their complexity. They rarely appear in neat, tidy packages. Often we feel a mix of emotions simultaneously, joy tinged with fear, grief interwoven with gratitude, or anger masking sadness. This complexity can be disorienting, leading us to believe that emotions are too chaotic to be understood. But the truth is, emotions are not random, they are data, and each one has a purpose. Take, for example, anger. At first glance, it may seem destructive or impulsive, but anger often signals that a boundary has been crossed or an injustice has occurred. Similarly, sadness can feel debilitating, but it invites us to slow down and process loss or change. Even fear, which we often associate with weakness, is a protective mechanism designed to alert us to potential danger or risk. When we approach emotions with curiosity rather than judgment, we can begin to decode the messages they carry. Acknowledging and naming emotions is the first step in using them as guides. Research has shown that simply identifying what you're feeling, whether it's frustration, disappointment, or hope, can reduce its intensity. Naming an emotion creates space between you and the feeling, allowing you to observe it without being overwhelmed by it. It's a way of saying, this is what I'm experiencing, but it's not all of who I am. Once we've acknowledged our emotions, the next step is to sit with them. This can be uncomfortable, especially if we're accustomed to avoiding emotional pain. But sitting with emotions doesn't mean wallowing in them, it means allowing yourself to fully experience them without rushing to fix or change them. It's in this space of acceptance that emotions can do their work, helping us process experiences, understand ourselves better, and find clarity. It's also important to remember that emotions are temporary. They may feel all-consuming in the moment, but they are like waves, rising and falling over time. By allowing emotions to flow naturally, we can move through them rather than getting stuck in them. Resistance only prolongs the discomfort, while acceptance helps us navigate the experience with greater ease. Emotions also serve as a compass, pointing us toward what matters most. Joy and excitement highlight our passions and alignments, while frustration and dissatisfaction reveal areas where change is needed. Even the emotions we label as negative have a purpose. They often push us to reflect, grow, and make meaningful adjustments in our lives. By paying attention to what we're feeling, we gain valuable insight into our needs and desires. Moreover, emotions are not just personal, they are relational. They help us connect with others on a deeper level. When we share our emotions authentically, we invite empathy and understanding, fostering stronger relationships. Vulnerability and expressing emotions can be transformative, reminding us that we're not alone in our struggles. In this way, emotions act as bridges, bringing people closer together. Learning to embrace the messiness of emotions requires practice and patience. It's not about controlling them or having perfect emotional responses. It's about cultivating a relationship with your feelings, one that is rooted in compassion and curiosity. Instead of fearing the mess, recognize it as part of the richness of being alive. Emotions in all their complexity are a reminder that you are fully human, capable of feeling deeply, learning continually, and growing endlessly. So the next time emotions feel overwhelming, pause and listen. Ask yourself, what is this emotion trying to tell me? What does it need from me? Emotions may be messy, but they are also profound guides. When we embrace them, we discover not only clarity, but also a deeper connection to ourselves and the world around us. In the mess lies meaning, and in the meaning lies transformation. When life feels confusing and overwhelming, the instinct for many is to retreat inward. We isolate ourselves, convinced that no one else will understand what we're going through. In these moments, it's easy to feel alone in the struggle, as if we're the only ones grappling with the uncertainty. But the truth is that isolation magnifies confusion, while connection provides clarity, support, and healing. Connection doesn't necessarily eliminate confusion, but it helps us navigate it with greater strength and resilience. It is the antidote to the loneliness and helplessness that confusion often brings. At its core, confusion thrives in silence and solitude. When we keep our struggles to ourselves, they can grow larger and more daunting. Our minds spin stories, amplifying fears and self-doubt, creating a spiral that's hard to break free from. But when we reach out to others and share our experiences, the simple act of voicing our thoughts can reduce their power. Speaking our truth, even when it's messy or incomplete, allows us to process what we're feeling and begin to make sense of it. Connection reminds us that we are not alone. No matter how unique our challenges may feel, there's a universal truth: others have faced confusion and uncertainty too. By sharing our stories and listening to the stories of others, we recognize the common threads that bind us as humans. This shared humanity is comforting, a reminder that while we may not have all the answers, we don't have to navigate the journey by ourselves. Reaching out for connection can take many forms. It might mean confiding in a trusted friend or family member, someone who can hold space for you without judgment. It might involve seeking the guidance of a mentor, counselor, or therapist who can offer perspective and tools for navigating the uncertainty. Or it could simply mean engaging in community, joining a group, participating in a shared activity, or even connecting with a stranger through a heartfelt conversation. In every form, connection allows us to feel seen, heard, and valued. One of the most powerful aspects of connection is its ability to provide perspective. When we're stuck in our own confusion, it's easy to lose sight of the bigger picture. We get caught up in the what-ifs and should have spinning in circles of self-doubt and fear. But when we connect with others, they can help us step outside of our own heads and see things from a different angle. Sometimes all it takes is someone else saying, "I've been there too," or "Have you considered this?" to spark a shift in our thinking. Connection also fosters emotional regulation. Studies have shown that sharing emotions with someone who listens empathetically can help reduce stress and anxiety. When we open up to others, our nervous systems respond to the comfort and safety of being understood. This calming effect makes it easier to think clearly and approach challenges with a more balanced mindset. It's as if connection creates an anchor, steadying us in the storm of confusion. Another critical aspect of connection is its power to inspire hope. In moments of uncertainty, it's easy to feel stuck or believe that things will never get better. But hearing about someone else's journey, how they faced confusion and eventually found their way, can reignite our own sense of possibility. Connection offers us glimpses of hope, showing us that confusion is temporary and that clarity is often just on the other side of connection and perseverance. Importantly, connection is not about having someone fix our problems or provide all the answers. It's about being supported as we navigate the process ourselves. True connection comes from being present with one another, sharing the load, and offering encouragement along the way. It's not about perfection or solutions, it's about solidarity and understanding. In a world where individualism is often celebrated, it can feel vulnerable to reach out and admit that we're struggling. But vulnerability is the foundation of meaningful connection. When we allow ourselves to be seen, even in our confusion, we invite others to do the same. This mutual exchange of authenticity deepens relationships and reminds us of our interconnectedness. Ultimately, connection doesn't just alleviate confusion, it transforms it. Through the bonds we form with others, we find not only clarity but also the strength to move forward. Connection teaches us that confusion is not a solitary burden, but a shared human experience, one that can be lightened when we lean on each other. So in moments of uncertainty, resist the urge to isolate. Reach out, even if it feels uncomfortable. Share your thoughts, your questions, your fears. Let others hold space for you and offer the same in return. Through connection, we find the courage to face the unknown, the wisdom to navigate it, and the hope that clarity will come in its own time. Life often feels like a series of unfinished stories, chapters left open and incomplete. We find ourselves caught in the messy middle of situations where resolutions seem distant and clarity feels elusive. It's natural to long for closure, to want everything tied up neatly with a satisfying ending. Yet the beauty of life lies not in its predictability or its neat conclusions, but in its imperfection and uncertainty. There is profound beauty in the unfinished story, in the spaces where possibilities still linger and where growth is still unfolding. An unfinished story holds potential. It is a canvas not yet filled, a journey still in motion. In a world that often prizes certainty and results, it can be hard to appreciate the value of the incomplete. We want answers, solutions, and outcomes. But if everything were resolved, if every question had an answer, life would lose much of its wonder. The unknown is what keeps us moving forward, what sparks curiosity and ignites hope. It reminds us that life is not static, it is fluid, ever-changing, and full of opportunities to evolve. The unfinished story teaches us patience. It asks us to sit with the discomfort of not knowing and to trust that clarity will come in its own time. This is not an easy lesson. We are conditioned to seek instant gratification, to solve problems quickly, and to move on. But life doesn't always work that way. Some of the most meaningful experiences take time to unfold. A relationship mired in misunderstanding might later bloom into deep connection. A failure today might sow the seeds of tomorrow's success. The unfinished story reminds us that what feels unresolved now may simply be a chapter waiting for its turn to be written. There is also beauty in the imperfection of the unfinished. We often strive for completion because we equate it with perfection. But perfection is an illusion, and in its pursuit, we miss the richness of what is already here. The raw, unpolished moments of life, the awkward conversations, the tentative first steps, the unfiltered emotions are where authenticity resides. They are real, messy, and human. These moments remind us that life is not about getting everything right. It's about showing up fully, even when we don't have all the answers. The unfinished story invites creativity. Without a set ending, we are free to imagine, dream, and explore. This openness is a gift, allowing us to shape our paths in ways that are uniquely our own. It challenges us to think beyond the boundaries of what we know and to embrace the idea that life is not something that happens to us, but something we actively create. Each choice, no matter how small, contributes to the unfolding narrative. Moreover, an unfinished story encourages connection. When we share our incomplete journeys with others, we invite them into our process. Vulnerably expressing where we are, even if it's messy or uncertain, fosters empathy and understanding. It creates space for collaboration where others can walk alongside us, offering their perspectives and support. In this shared space, we find comfort in the knowledge that no one's story is ever truly complete. Embracing the unfinished also cultivates resilience. It teaches us to hold space for uncertainty and to find peace within it. Life will never be fully resolved. There will always be loose ends, unanswered questions, and unfinished business. But this is not a failure, it is the essence of being alive. Resilience comes from accepting this reality and moving forward with courage and hope, trusting that the story will continue to unfold as it should. Ultimately, the beauty of the unfinished story is that it mirrors the nature of life itself, a continuous journey, not a fixed destination. Every ending is the beginning of something new, every closure an opening to fresh possibilities. The unfinished reminds us that we are works in progress, constantly learning, growing, and becoming. It invites us to celebrate the journey rather than fixating solely on the outcome. So when you find yourself in the midst of an unfinished story, pause and take it in. Appreciate the twists and turns, the detours and delays, the surprises and setbacks. These moments are not just obstacles to overcome, they are the fabric of life itself. They hold beauty, meaning, and potential. They remind us that life is not a problem to be solved, but an adventure to be lived. The unfinished story is not a flaw, it is a masterpiece in progress. It is a testament to our capacity for growth, our openness to change, and our willingness to embrace the unknown. In its incompleteness lies its beauty, a constant reminder that life's greatest treasures are often found not in the destination, but in the journey. Resilience is not something that comes to us when life is easy or predictable. It is born in the moments when certainty is absent, when we are forced to face the unknown, endure adversity, and navigate a path forward without a clear map. These moments, though difficult, are the crucible in which resilience is forged. They strip away our illusions of control, challenging us to adapt, grow, and find strength we didn't know we possessed. The absence of certainty can feel destabilizing. As human beings, we crave structure, predictability, and a sense of security. When these are stripped away, it's natural to feel fear and doubt. But it's in these moments of vulnerability that resilience begins to take shape. Resilience isn't about eliminating fear or uncertainty, it's about learning to coexist with them. It's the ability to stand in the storm, to feel the wind and rain, and to take one step forward, even when the way ahead is unclear. One of the most profound lessons of resilience is that clarity is not a prerequisite for action. In uncertain times, the temptation to freeze, overanalyze, or wait for perfect conditions can be strong. But resilience requires us to move forward, despite the lack of guarantees. It's the recognition that progress doesn't require certainty, it requires courage. Each small step, no matter how tentative, builds momentum and brings us closer to solutions we might not have seen from a standstill. The absence of certainty also forces us to confront our limitations and reevaluate our priorities. It challenges us to let go of what we cannot control and focus on what we can. In doing so, we learn to cultivate inner resources, flexibility, resourcefulness, and self-trust. These qualities are the bedrock of resilience, enabling us to adapt to changing circumstances and find new ways to thrive. Adversity and uncertainty also teach us about the power of perspective. In the face of hardship, it's easy to focus on what's lost or unknown. But resilience invites us to shift our attention to what remains, to the possibilities that still exist. It encourages gratitude for the small certainties in life, the support of loved ones, the lessons of past experiences, and the strength we've already demonstrated. This shift in perspective doesn't diminish the difficulty of the moment, but it allows us to anchor ourselves in hope and possibility. Another key aspect of resilience is connection. When certainty disappears, our relationships become even more vital. Leaning on others for support, sharing our struggles, and listening to their experiences remind us that we are not alone. Resilience is not about going it alone. It's about recognizing that strength often comes from community. Together, we can weather storms that would feel insurmountable on our own. It's also important to recognize that resilience is not a fixed trait. It's a skill that can be cultivated and strengthened over time. Each experience of uncertainty, while challenging, provides an opportunity to build resilience. The more we face and navigate the unknown, the more confident we become in our ability to handle whatever comes next. This confidence is not rooted in arrogance, but in a quiet assurance that we can endure, adapt, and grow. The absence of certainty also fosters creativity and innovation. When traditional paths are blocked or unclear, we are forced to think outside the box, to explore new possibilities, and to take risks. Resilience thrives in these moments of experimentation, where failure becomes a stepping stone rather than a stopping point. In uncertainty, we discover our capacity for problem solving and our ability to create meaning and purpose from chaos. Ultimately, resilience is born from the recognition that uncertainty is not something to be feared, it's an inevitable part of life. While we may not choose the circumstances that test us, we can choose how we respond. We can choose to see uncertainty not as an obstacle, but as an invitation to grow. It's in these moments of discomfort that we discover our true strength, the depth of our character, and our capacity to persevere. The absence of certainty strips away our illusions of control, leaving us with the raw materials of who we are. In this space, resilience emerges not as a shield to protect us from life's challenges, but as a bridge to carry us through them. It reminds us that we are capable of enduring more than we imagine, and that within every challenge lies the opportunity for transformation. So while the absence of certainty may feel overwhelming, it is also the birthplace of resilience. It's where we learn to embrace the unknown, to trust ourselves, and to move forward with courage and grace. In navigating the uncertainties of life, we don't just survive, we grow, evolve, and become stronger. Resilience is not just a response to adversity, it's a testament to the human spirit's incredible ability to rise, adapt, and thrive in the face of the unknown.